Hey guys, I wanted to do something a tiny bit different today and I decided that I would scrap lift myself again. I didn't have a particular spread in mind, so what I did was just randomly grab a notebook off my shelf up above my desk here. I just flicked through one of the notebooks and picked a page that I thought would be fun to recreate, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to use this month's Citrus Twist Kit, and I have a little photo of one of the new flowers that is coming out. Love spring, time to document it, and I'm just going to get started. So the original layout that I am scrap lifting, it had a bit of mixed media in the background, and I'm actually not going to do that today. I've got layouts on both sides of this page, and I didn't want to risk anything kind of leaking through to the backs of those. And I will add a tiny bit of, it's not even mixed media, you'll see, I'll add it at the end. But what the layout did have was some torn paper borders at the top and the bottom. So I am going to replicate that, and I'm going to use this really beautiful pink diamond patterned paper. I've just trimmed the width of it down to the width of my notebook, and then I'm going to cut down just 2 extra pieces. I do end up wasting a tiny little bit of these, but it is what it is. I could have just ripped along as I'm doing here, but I do need straight edges on 4 of these. So that's why I trimmed down these little pieces so that I could essentially tear them in half. Although you can see I am tearing a little bit out of the middle because I liked the white strip when you, sort of the white edge. When you tear paper, one edge has kind of a white edge and the other doesn't. So to get matching white edges on both sides, I did have to kind of tear from the top and the bottom. The bottom strips I've made slightly bigger than the top, and because of the way the patterns are cut, they don't actually match top and bottom. Not top and bottom, sort of left and right. They're a little bit wonky. You could definitely have been more precise, but I really don't notice the difference. Now, I loved this 3x4 journaling card. It says so good multiple times. I love the dark navy blue with all of those bright pops of color. I thought the pink worked perfectly with my little floral photo there. So I decided to use that, but the only way I could get it to fit on here with my photo was to trim it down. So I've trimmed down the edge as close to the D as I can, and I'm going to adhere this onto the edge of my page, and I'm tucking that under the torn strip. So before I adhered the torn strip down, I tucked that journaling card in underneath, and then I added my floral photo on top. So that does butt right up against the center of the book. I've tried to leave enough space so that it turns nicely, and I think it works fine. This is sort of the back half of this notebook, so the right hand side is a lot lower than the left. If you've made a chunky notebook, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So I added my photo, and I've added that on top of the torn strip, and that's the same as my original layout. The photo had kind of a little cluster around it, and so I'm going to replicate that. And the other thing that I'm replicating from my original layout is the way that the title was created with sort of stacking different fonts. So I'm going to do that here, and I'm cheating a little bit. I'm going to use the word beautiful that came in the die cut pack. It matches my blue card perfectly. I love it. So, and I got really lucky and it fit the width of the Traveler's Notebook page perfectly. So I'm going to use that for my title, and I'm going to add a little bit to it, but I want to pull out a few little bits and pieces to kind of create or recreate this cluster. It had a label on the original one, so I'm adding a label there. It'll give me somewhere to stamp a little sentiment onto, and I will add a couple of other things. Now the alpha from the Life Crafted kit is a really bright yellow. It's beautiful, but I feel like I've got quite a fun little color scheme here with the pink and the blue. I don't use this very often, and I didn't want to add yellow to it. So kind of coming up with another option, and while I think about that, I'm going to add ticket. I'm going to add this little pink ticket. Again, now I've discovered I've got this really heavy color scheme. I'm going to stick with it. So I'm adding this bright pop of pink instead of the original tag that was on my original layout. So I've kind of recreated the little cluster, and I'm going to finish off my title here. I figured the easiest way to adhere this word, it did kind of get a little bit sort of squished in the packet, but I've sort of flattened it out. I'm going to use just some liquid adhesive, and that way you can see me kind of just bending it into place to make sure that it fits. And I did overlap that onto the bottom of that torn edge too. So everything's kind of really bottom heavy on this layout, which I don't mind at all. I lost the dot from the eye somewhere in that packet, so instead I used one of the little puffy hearts. I've used all my pink ones, so I added a little peach one because the label that I've added is peach as well, and there's a couple of sort of peachy corally spots on that So Good card as well. So here we go, I'm back with my favorite pink foam alphas. I mean, it goes perfectly with this page. I love them, and this notebook's pretty full. It's nearly finished, so I don't mind adding the foam in there. It doesn't add too much bulk onto a layout. I fit this between the B and the T, and I'm going to add a day down the bottom, so my title is going to be This Beautiful Day. I just adore these alphas, and it went so perfectly. I love this color scheme, the blue and the pink. It's one I'm definitely going to have to try and recreate. Now, I wanted to add a little bit of stamping in here. There are so many good stamps this month from Citrus Twist. My original layout didn't actually have any stamping on there, but the left-hand side of the page did have some kind of fringing, so there's an extra detail on there that I haven't added into this layout, so I figured the stamping was a good way to replace that. There's a perfect little spot for stamping here under the title, so I added Couldn't Be Any Better. And I'm going to add another couple of stamps on here as well. So I want to stamp one onto my actual, like the I keep wanting to call it fringe now, the torn paper down the bottom. So I partially stamped a stamp and it fit perfectly in there. And I'm going to stamp another one on top of that journaling card too. I am stamping in not black, in a sort of medium grey, just so as not to take away from that navy blue. I want the stamping to be there, and it is definitely readable, but it doesn't take that sort of visual preference. So I stamped that one on top of the journaling card, and then one little one onto the label. I realized I hadn't actually stuck down this wee fabric piece at the top. I just added that for a little bit of balance. It says hello, and I like that it's kind of pointing down at the clusters. And here we go with my very minimal mixed media. Just some Heidi Swap color shine and that same kind of peachy color. And this layout is all done. I really do love scrap lifting myself. Is it something you've ever done before? If you have not, I highly recommend it. Such a good time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.